Awesome. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Cloud Chats. The title for this episode is The 3 Rs: Reading, Writing, and REST APIs. I'm your host, Mason Egger, and this is my buddy Chris on that direction.
Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Sev. We are both developer advocates at DigitalOcean. So welcome to Cloud Chats number 2. So this is exciting to get episode number 2. And we'll have to do one of those fun episodes like, episode 100, when do we get there?
Definitely, yeah. Okay, so for let's go ahead and just do a cold open with everyone in the chat real quick. What is your current IDE or text editor? How do you edit and write code? So Chris, how about you show us first what you got?
Cool. So I am currently using VS Code, which a lot of the front-end world, I believe, is using VS Code, and rightfully so. So if I share my screen real quick, this is my VS Code setup. And right now, this is a JavaScript project, so I've set everything to yellow. And yeah, Visual Studio Code. Hey, Jose, in the chat. Welcome. So Visual Studio Code, my favorite thing right now. And this is kind of my sort of setup. So if you're talking setup, my font is Cascadia code. And I have spent hours and hours going back and forth on which monospace code is my favorite. But this is Cascadia code. And then my theme is Monokai.pro. So I really enjoy these two as a pair. And what you see here isn't really how I code. I usually hide the sidebar, hide the activity bar over there, hide the status bar over here, and then go centered layout. So I pretty much make like a Zen mode when I code. And one more thing. If you are using Vim, I found this setting like a couple days ago. Basically, you see how my line number right here is 7? Let me zoom in. And above is 1, 2, 3, 4, and below is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a weird line numbering scheme, but the way it works is if I'm in Vim and I want to go up like 5 lines, I just press 5 up. And now I know exactly like where I'm trying to go. So kind of a fun technique for navigating with Vim in VS Code.
Yeah, I had a friend who did that too, who used to have the weird numbering scheme so they could jump up and down in their Vim and stuff. That was one of the few tricks in Vim that I never learned, was that specific one. Okay, so for my one, I also use VS Code. I mostly program Python, a little bit of Golang here and there, and then like Terraform and stuff. I don't even know what theme this is. I think I just went with one that I liked and kind of just stuck with it. I do, however, I have the Material plugin, so the Material Icons plugin, so it adds all these really cool icon files for me that works out really well. I typically, sometimes I run a terminal in here, but I'm doing all of this on the Windows subsystem for Linux. So I ever since they brought that out, I wrote a blog post a long time ago, saying like I think I could do my entire job on Windows, and I have been for the better part of a year. And I have the Ubuntu distribution installed on Windows, and then VS Code automatically connects into it. So I'm running inside of a Linux environment, but I'm writing in my Windows environment, which I really love. Yay, we've got some.
Is this WSL 2?
Yes, this is WSL 2, which I really like. It makes it super easy to deal with, because in WSL 1, I used to have problems with Docker. So what I would also do is, if I was doing anything with Docker or something heavy like that, I would also use the remote SSH extension, which is, I think, a tutorial that I wrote on DigitalOcean, where if I couldn't get done what I needed to get done inside the WSL, I would SSH out to a DigitalOcean droplet, and then I would program in that environment, which I really liked. But now that WSL2 has pretty decent Docker support, every now and then my Docker build stops working. It's just like, no, you don't get to build Docker images. And I don't know what the problem is. It usually resolves itself. That I've been mostly using that. And where do I go to find out what color scheme I'm using? Because there's definitely people asking.
So type in Control-Shift-P, open up the command palette.
P, yeah.
and then do select theme, or just type theme, I guess.
Theme. Select accent color, or
no, it's preferences color theme down in yeah.
I am using material theme darker high contrast. So I think those all were plugins. So if I look at my plugins, oh come on, you can do this. Local installed. Better Comments is a great one if you've never seen this, where you can show off your different comment styles. Bracket colorizer. I didn't know I needed this until I started needing this, and now I can't go without it. Community material theme, and then material icon theme. That's honestly my favorite part, is these material icons. It's like I can glance and I know it's Docker. It's got the little gopher for Hugo. All sorts of really cool things. So yeah, that's my environment. I don't use any. I'm every now and then I go back and forth on using Vim key bindings, but honestly, I haven't used them in quite a while.
Yeah, it's so fun to. I don't know. I think WSL is such a cool idea, and it was executed well. What I found, what I still miss, is just using like an FTP, like Notepad++, and just FTPing into a server and editing live on the server. I miss those days.
That was fun. We got a question in the chat from Mateo asking, are you using a hypervisor for that environment setup? So under the hood, Windows Subsystem for Linux 2 does use Hyper-V, but I've never had to touch it, because like when you install the new Windows Subsystem for Linux 2, it does all of that for you. So under the hood, yes, this is running on Hyper-V. I did not personally set that up. That is all done by this really cool tool that they've released. And I love it. Like, it's like, I know Hyper-V, but I have not played with Hyper-V in a while, and I'm glad that I don't have to go back and relearn Hyper-V.
It sounds like a good topic for a series of tutorials.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about, like, it's on my list, is writing tutorials on how to use the Windows subsystem for Linux. I have it on my personal blog site. Like, it's called yearoftheLinuxDesktop.exe, because I think that's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
It makes me laugh. It's actually a conference talk that I've written too that nobody will accept, because they're like, oh, he's just going to come and like flame the crowd. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I want to talk about like this really cool tool. Maybe I should change the title. But yeah, I love it. It's I can play video games. I can do all my things on Windows. I like Mac, but yeah, I don't know.
Everybody get them.
Yeah, I don't know. No, they're going to get me. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I have to. I'll hold my comments for that one. Newsflash. Okay, so these are the news items that we have currently for this week in rapid fire succession. So the current survey was released, or the results from the most recent DigitalOcean current survey, which is usually a survey that talks about the state of open source. We send it out to get basically like a pulse on what is the open source community thinking. And some of the highlights from this survey that we recently got was open source contribution in general overall actually decreased in 2020, which was not the trend I was expecting. I was thinking that people were going to be doing more open source, but in reality, it's a little bit different. Active members of open source dug deeper. They went into like they definitely contributed. So if you were like a maintainer or a contributor already before the pandemic, you were definitely doing more, but it did not lead to more people getting into open source. I think most people got into making sourdough bread, which I do not have a sourdough starter. Do you have a sourdough starter now, Chris?
No, it looks pretty tough, but I did have, there's this new place in Vegas where I'm from. It's a pizza shop that opened up, and they have a 140-year-old sourdough starter that they use to make the dough for their pizza, and it was fantastic.
That sounds delicious. Next time I'm in Vegas, we'll have to try it out. So of the people that were active members, 63% of them reported that they were active, like that their participation in open source increased, while 12% said it decreased. And then yeah, so that was about participation. And then one of the other questions that I think really stood out to me, because we definitely we're seeing a change in the trend of free software and open source software, especially around monetization of free software, one of the questions we asked is, do you believe that people should be paid for their open source contributions? And 47% of participants believe that not only should they be paid, but the big tech companies that are making money off of the open source movement should be paying for them, which I have to say I kind of agree with. Like, a lot of the big companies that we know are built off of free softwares, and they're making billions of dollars. It wouldn't hurt them to kick back a couple $100,000 here and there to support the communities that they built their enterprises off of.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that GitHub has moved to add what is it, sponsors?
Stars, or GitHub stars. No, that's stars. What do they call it?
Sponsors.
Sponsors. Is that what
where people can pay monthly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Patreon on GitHub.
Yes, I like that. You can pick like your favorite person, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping that eventually they'll be able to move to include a like project model, because like because I'm in the Python space, I know the names of a lot of Python core developers, so I can give to them. But the majority of Python developers may not know who the core devs are, and they just want to give money back to the Python Software Foundation, which they can do through like the PSF's website. But it would be cool if GitHub were to able to like open that up to allow for people to be able to give to the foundations through GitHub itself. If they might already do that, I don't know. I haven't really looked. But who knows? That would be really cool.
Yeah, and therein lies like part of the problem is it's not fully promoted. If it is, right?
Yeah,
or maybe
maybe I'm just under a rock. It could totally be that. Like, yeah, definitely don't use me as a litmus test for, is he up to date with current trends? Because I will fail that one every time. And the other item we have for our news flash this week is Istio 1.9 was released. So if you are unaware of Istio, it is a CNCF tool. It's a service meshing tool. Basically, it's I saw Kelsey Hightower tweet about it this morning, that Istio is to Envoy what Kubernetes is to Docker. I have no idea what that means. I have an idea that Istio probably is just like an expansion upon Envoy. But it's service meshing technologies. And they added a lot of apparently really cool features. gRPC logging, DNS auto allocation, which apparently like is now optional and doesn't rely on the DNS capture, and just a lot more really cool features. The change log was really long and really awesome. And I remember when Istio got added to the CNCF, I was at the KubeCon when they announced Istio. So it's really cool to see them like continue the project continuing forward. But I will admit I don't know much about what it does.
This is the first I have heard of it. So
if you don't live in deep DevOps sysadmin space, you'd never know it was there. I do know that App Platform uses Istio. It's like we're built on Kubernetes. Istio is the service mesh that App Platform uses. And it's a really cool tool. But it's a lot.
Sweet. Hey, Robert and Lewis over in the chat. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes.
Appreciate you being here.
Yes. And now we're going to move on to a segment that we're going to do periodically as it is necessary, because sometimes it's not necessary, called This Week at DO or This Week at DigitalOcean. We're going to talk about some of the cool things that are coming out of DigitalOcean this week, because we actually have some news. You know, when you work for a company like DigitalOcean, not any company in general, stuff doesn't happen every week. It's why this isn't a weekly segment. Some weeks are really boring. But some weeks we've got some cool news, and we'd love to share it with you. I think the one that I'm the most excited about currently is our new Write for Donations program has been relaunched. So if you are aware of Write for Donations, it's a program where you could write tutorials for DigitalOcean, and we would pay you for them, and it's really cool. And we've had to close that program recently just because of other things, other reasons that I actually don't know the reasons for. But it's reopened. We've relaunched it. And now what we're doing is we've actually modified how we accept submissions now. We're going to be doing focused on topics. So every month there's going to be topics that we're going to be wanting writers for on these specific topics. So if you want to write on these topics this month, these are the topics that are being currently asked for February. React.js projects, cool command line solutions, and tutorials that show how to use DigitalOcean's products. So our Write for Donation, I don't know, author programs are pretty near and dear to my heart. So yeah, definitely if you have been interested in writing tutorials
or if you have been writing tutorials on sites like dev.to, writing for different publications is a really good way to get good exposure, to teach a different audience. So definitely reach out, apply to this program. There is monetary value for your article itself. And what we also do is the program is called Write for Donations. So basically, we match whatever the payment is to a charity of your choice, which is really cool.
Yes, I love that part. It's always been my favorite, one of my favorite parts of it. I've written a lot of, I haven't actually written through this program, but it says that I have, because when I write internally, they funnel it through this program. You get to work with editors, which is a really cool thing, because we have a lot of really, really smart people on our editorial team that can make your take your tutorial and polish it till it shines. And I love that, because they make me sound way smarter than I actually am. And I love it. Chris, how did for Scotch, you had an open program for how did y'all do contributions with Scotch when you were still running that?
Sure. So we at Scotch got up to about 500 guest authors, and a lot of it was our own application process, similar to Write for Donations. And basically, if you're looking to write for publications like DigitalOcean, like any other real site that pays for articles, for any guest author program, basically the full format is you usually apply, and it's always a good idea to have previously written content. It acts as your resume, right? People want to see what you've written in the past so that they can judge your writing style, your writing content, how you teach. And honestly, I feel like writing tutorials and articles has become tech's resume, right? When I hire people, I look at what they've done as far as tutorials and written online as a gauge of how they code, which is kind of fun. But yeah, then it goes to the outlining process, then it goes to the rough draft process, and the entire time you're helping edit and kind of coach up people on how they write. And that's exactly what the Write for Donations does. And then you get published, which is a lot of fun.
It is. It's really cool to be able to point people back to your tutorials, especially I'm always proud to be published on DigitalOcean, because so many people in the world trust our tutorials, and I'm like, I wrote for them. Me, see? So makes me feel good about it.
The ultimate level of that is Googling for something and you find your article where you're like, oh my gosh, I did write that. I forgot about that.
I love when that happens. It's I don't remember how to do this. Oh, look, past me did. So that's awesome. So yeah, if you're interested in the Write for Donations program, if you go to do.co/w4do, Write for Do, it'll take you to this page, or you can just Google Write for Donations DigitalOcean. It'll bring it right up. I think we actually, yes, we did drop a link in the chat earlier. So feel free to also go back and get on that chat. So what's up?
So Marth, with the beginner REST API session later in this, and yes, definitely we're going to go over REST APIs. I'll do a bit more of what is a REST API, how they work, and then we're going to build one in today's stream pretty quickly, which is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Oguz.
Awesome. I'm glad that so many people are enjoying this. So the next thing we have to talk about is Bill.do, which is a DigitalOcean bill monitoring technology. Yes, there we go. And it's brought to you by the people who bring you SnapShooter. So if you're unaware of SnapShooter, SnapShooter is a DigitalOcean backup provider that you can purchase. But now they've also brought you this really cool tool for monitoring and profiling your billing and your spending usages, so you can actually set alerts whenever things go haywire, which sometimes in cloud things go haywire. Things auto scale up. Maybe you don't know what's going on with some of that. Traffic increases and you're like, whoa, I'm getting charged for bandwidth overages. And it definitely you've always got to watch your bill in the cloud. And this is a really cool tool. I'm super excited about it. It's a bill that things a lot of people have been wanting for a long time.
Yeah. Any sort of transparency like this, I am all for. I've been hit with unknown overages from other companies before, and that's it's never fun.
it's never fun to open your $5 a month bill and then it's $3,000. As again, that's happened at other companies. I've never personally experienced it here, because I feel like the DigitalOcean pricing model, the simplicity in our billing makes it really nice. And that's one of the things that I love about DigitalOcean is I've never had, I think the most surprise I ever had on a bill from DO was like an extra like $1.60 because I forgot to delete a floating IP one time. But it's never like, I've definitely heard stories from my friends in the industry that are like, yeah, my bill increased by 6,000% this month. I'm like, ooh, that's no good.
Yeah, I think I just let one account like disappear because I just didn't log in anymore because I was like, oh, I'm not paying that.
Oh my goodness.
So I got a new email after that.
Awesome. Well, it's time for lightning tutorials. So Samarth, you were asking about REST APIs, and Chris is going to lead us through some REST API stuff using Strapi, which is a tool that I did not know about until Chris taught it to me. That was hard to say. And I love it. It's a great tool. So Chris, take it away.
Cool. Yeah. So Samarth, we'll do a little bit of a, I guess, REST API beginner getting into REST APIs. So REST APIs is a way that we can connect to certain companies' data, or pretty much any sort of data. It's probably not the most elegant way to say it, huh? But it's a way for us to go grab data from another source. And that's the way the web is moving these days, is you have data from all sorts of sources, like your Facebook account, your Spotify account, your YouTube account, Twitter account. And each one of them has an API that we can go grab data from. And one of my favorites to use is the Poke API, Pokemon API. I'll paste that in chat. And
my favorite, absolute favorite. I use that so much. I use it more than I should admit I do.
Yeah, I've been using it I use it for pretty much 90% of the demo apps I make. But basically, what happens is you get a URL right here, https pokeapi.co/API/v2, which this is kind of a long one, but it's all good. And then you just do Pokemon/Ditto. So if I went into my browser right here, I pasted that Pokemon/Ditto. Well, let's change that out to Pikachu, everyone's favorite yellow Pokemon. Basically, what happens is this is a REST API that we did a GET request to, and we got all of this stuff about, let me zoom in, about Pikachu. What's up, Arpan? Yeah, Poke API is like thorough.
As a self-proclaimed Pokemon master, this is all the data that I always need for like competitive Pokemon playing and stuff, and I love this API. And I think it's hosted on DO.
Is it really? That's cool.
I know we sponsor them.
Even more reason for I guess, what are your other favorite dummy APIs? The Rick and Morty API is a good one.
That one's pretty good. I used to use, I don't know. What did I used to use? There's an Overwatch API for like querying your Overwatch stats. Whenever I used to play, I was working on like a tooling for like tracking my progress in competitive games and stuff. That one was interesting.
Yeah, I am kind of scared to go grab data from that. It'll tell me how many times I've lost.
Yeah, me too.
So what we have here is a REST API, and basically a REST API lets you do CRUD operations. So let me open up some notes. These are my notes. So usually in APIs, you have CRUD, right? Which is create, read, update, and delete. And pretty much, I don't know, some people say every app in the world is a CRUD app. What do you think about that, Mason? Because I think it's kind of true.
Every app in the world is a CRUD app. Yeah.
So chat app, CRUD app. You're creating messages, reading messages, updating messages, and deleting messages. DigitalOcean, you're creating, reading, updating, deleting droplets, right? Every app is a CRUD app.
Yep.
Cool. So basically, if you're talking about getting data now, there are something called HTTP verbs, where this is a GET request to create. This is a GET request to read. This is we use put post to update. Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. And then this is a delete request.
Yeah.
Let's see. Andres with a question in the chat. What is the best stack for REST APIs and widely used by companies? That's a hard question. I feel like every language can build APIs.
Yeah, we do see a lot of. So just from what we see with that platform and like what we've kind of researched, like the JavaScript frameworks, the PHP frameworks, Python frameworks, Ruby frameworks, Java. A lot of people still write Java for web. It really just depends on your preferences. So if you have a language that you like, it most likely supports a REST API. Could you build a REST API in C? Probably. Wouldn't recommend it. But I would also say that if you have languages, there's probably a REST API framework for it. And I would just look and see if that's the one you want to use. It's all about, using the right tool for the right job, and you're going to be more productive on a language that you're comfortable with.
Yeah. And that's really what it is, right? Is I would rather spend time building something than learning something new. As far as best stacks, in my opinion, I think PHP, Python, and JavaScript, Node, is kind of the way to go for building REST API. So let's build a Node API in like 5 minutes today. Ed Prince, thanks for saying that. Thanks for joining for all of these streams. We appreciate you. Planning to build a SaaS. Should I use Express.js or Django? This is like me and Mason getting into a fight because I'm the JavaScript.
And I love Django REST API. I'm a Python developer, so I vote Django, and I bet Chris will vote JavaScript. So yeah, it's a tie. Now you have to cast the tie-breaking vote yourself. They're both great. Whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever's going to make you most productive and get you to success quickest, use that. Don't worry about anything else, because you'll spend more time trying to learn a new language and learn all of its quirks than you will, anything else. So just use what makes you good.
100% on that. So yesterday I did a stream on Strapi on building a full stack app, pretty much building a blog. So it's on the YouTube DigitalOcean channel. It's on DigitalOcean's YouTube channel. Check it out over there. It's an hour long of building a blog. So this is kind of a real quick sample of it. And Sahil, I see you in the chat. Please do Strapi authentication. That will definitely happen. So let's do a quick intro to Strapi, strapi.io. If you want to put that in the chat real quick. Okay, so real quick, somebody time this on how fast we can build an API.
Okay, give me a second. I'm pulling up a stopwatch on my whatever this device is that's in my hand. Man, words are hard today. Phone. It's a phone. Okay, I'm ready.
This device. Hey, Ashutosh, welcome. Thanks for joining.
You ready, Chris?
Go.
So
we go npx create Strapi app. Take this, Mason, and we'll say quick start. So this is going to build a Node Strapi app. Strapi is built on Node and JavaScript. So it's going to build this app, and basically we'll be able to build an API using this framework. Alan says you're not doing it in your on your Google Home. There's also a timer if you're doing it on Google's.com itself.
Yeah, well, my first thought was to reach for that device that I can't name that's called a phone. So
fair. This is the longest part of it, is waiting for installs.
You know what? You always wind up getting stuck behind dependencies. Myself, whenever I do like Python stuff, I get stuck behind it sometimes.
Almost.
Come on. You can do
Come
it.
on. Actually, tell me what the time is here, because I want to know if the build time takes longer than the actual.
We're at 1 minute and 6 seconds when you just asked that. So and honestly, I was watching, you typed the first command at around 20. So we've been sitting here for about a minute now.
No. You're saying it took me 20 seconds to write one line?
It took you 20 seconds from the time I hit start to the time you hit enter.
Okay. I need to speed that up. Okay, here we go. So basically what it does, creates the Strapi app, gives us a dashboard. So first login is here, Chris Sev, C Sevleha at DigitalOcean. That's my full last name. And my email is open if you ever have questions. Password one is like my default local password. Don't tell anyone. Okay, so here's the Strapi dashboard. And what I'm going to do is create a content type here. And we'll call it Pokemon. What's plural for Pokemons? It's just Pokemon, right?
Yeah, it's Pokemon. It's like deer and deer.
Okay, so there's name. We'll say short text. And this is what's really cool about Strapi is building an API is you can just click and say, oh, I want text. I want rich text. I need a number field, a date field, a Boolean, and relationships are really easy to build here too. So I'm going to say, well, what else came out of the Pokemon API?
Just do like two like name, and then like types, name and types.
Okay, so name and
type. He's electric.
Okay, so type, and I'll just make that text. So we'll say text type right here is that. And actually, I think that's done. So we have two fields for this Pokemon, name and type. I'm going to hit save. It does that when you're local for some reason sometimes. Okay, it didn't work. What is happening? No errors here. Uh-oh.
It's the live demo gods.
It's the live demo. Okay, so Pokemon. Okay, so there's that name. There's that.
Just type again, yeah.
Yep. Come on. What is happening? Okay, so let me. I'm gonna go to take this Mason. Whoa, no. npm run develop, I think it is. Everyone has different commands. Okay, so here we are. Go back. What are we at on time?
We're at 4 minutes.
Okay. So I had name. Here's type. Okay, so here's finish that. Hit P to save. Okay, well, let me tell you something else. We already have users as a collection type. What is happening? Let's go Mason at test.com, password one, and confirmed, and we'll say save. Okay, so that's saved. So in users, we have a user. So what I can do here is go localhost 1337/users, and I get a status 403 forbidden, and that's because by default Strapi says all data cannot be accessible. We're trying to stay secure here. So you go over here, you go to settings, roles, public. So basically we're saying here's the public role. Public users can see user find and find one. So basically we're saying any user can like see a user, their profile publicly. So I'm going to hit save, go over here, refresh, and now we have a GET request to this API for users. So that's an API.
Yeah. I can vouch for Chris and say that it normally works, and I've never seen that error before, but it's the live demo gods. There's no errors, nothing's wrong, it's just not working. We tried to do a live demo on a stream, it broke. So that's just hilarious. I do love Strapi. Strapi's like one of those like pieces of tech that just it makes me believe in magic.
Yeah, that and Descript.
That and Descript. Yeah, no, you know, you have introduced me to more technologies that I'm like, this is magical. And the cool thing about Strapi, and Chris and I actually did it, like we have working apps that we've built with this that are in fact microservices, Jose. So yes, we have done microservices with Strapi. Which app did we build with this? Was this the URL shortener that we built with Strapi?
No, I think that one was Django.
Yeah, what did we build with Strapi? Oh, the app platform
Showcase.
Showcase. We built a Showcase app where I built the Strapi thing and was learning Strapi, and Chris built the front end.
Yeah.
So
And
it's totally awesome.
the cool thing with REST APIs is you can bring whatever front end you want. So the API just spits out data just like this, right? And you can bring in any front end that you like. You can bring in React, Vue, just plain old JavaScript, which is rare these days. But yeah.
Yeah, and we had a comment from Facebook. A good tutorial idea: building a Strapi e-commerce with Next.js and Stripe on DO. So that definitely sounds like maybe a good either tutorial or webinar you could maybe look into doing, Chris, because that sounds like right up your wheelhouse.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I think we might need to extend that time for that one to maybe 3 hours.
Oh, wow, that would be a workshop.
Yeah, that would be a workshop. That's a good idea.
That's actually really cool. I like that. Awesome. Thanks for the idea. We love your ideas, by the way. What do you want to see us produce? Because, like, you know, we're constantly producing content all the time, and sometimes we have a hard time figuring out what are we going to talk about today. So whenever y'all put ideas in the chat, we put them in a document because sometimes we just have a hard time with it. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I think that's the end of lightning tutorials for today. Let's go on to a new segment that we're doing that I'm excited about. I'm excited about all segments, but this one's going to be even more fun. Okay, we're going to answer this one question real quick because I don't know. Chris, do you know the answer to this before we move on to the next segment? What are your thoughts on Deno?
What are my thoughts on Deno? I don't even know what the Deno.land. That's why I don't know it. To be fully honest about it, I haven't played with it enough to know it. It looks interesting. They had a big splash when they first came out, right? And it was a lot of fun. I think I still need to play with it, but I don't know. I don't know about it.
I've never heard of it, but I'm not a JavaScript person, so it's very likely that I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, this is one of the things where it's like I was in a point when it came out where I was very much I can learn this new thing real quick, or I can like keep doing what I'm doing on Node that I already know. And I wasn't really in a learning mode when it came out, which I'm sad to say.
No, that happens. Sometimes I'm like, that looks really cool. I wish I had the energy for it. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, that's what Chris thinks about Deno. Next segment, super excited. And because we had such a good response last time with people in our chat talking about older technologies, we've created a segment called Back in My Day, which is basically a way for us to look back at historical events in tech and software engineering and just kind of, you know, tell you about them, what's basically been going on, what's happened in the last 2 weeks in history. We're probably going to run this about twice a month, and we're going to do it, you know, 2 weeks at a time, what's going on. So the first one that I think is really interesting is on February 8th, 2005, Google Maps was officially released to the public. It had been internally as a beta for a little bit, but we got Google Maps on February 8th. So what, 16 years ago? Google Maps has been around for 16 years. And I remember using MapQuest. You used to have, like, for those of you that are in the chat that are young, you used to have to go to the computer and type in your location and then use this thing called a printer. And it would take paper and put things on it, and then you had to carry them with you when you went driving. And you know, that was the original don't text and drive, because you were reading, not paying attention, nearly, you know, getting into a wreck. So Google Maps, Chris, 16 years. Can you believe it's been 16 years?
16 years. I can't believe. I don't know. I remember the Y2K bug, so I feel like that was yesterday, and now here we are in 2021. I don't know.
Yeah. Awesome. That one's fun.
I wish we could pull up a picture of what it looked like. We have a picture of the next one, but we didn't. I don't know what the domain was for Google Maps.
Well, no, pull it up on. There's a link in the show notes. It's kind of small, but can we zoom in on it maybe? Here, let me.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's old school Google Maps. I don't know if that's the original Google Maps from all that time ago, but I remember Google Maps looking like that. Like with that really flat, like that 90s, early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s looking web interface.
The green pins.
The green pins, they were so fun. Okay, so the next thing we have on February, oh, these are actually out of order. This was supposed to go later because we're going by date, not by year. So we're going to move that one. So February 10th, 1996, Gary Kasparov loses a game of chess to a computer, Deep Blue. So this was, I believe, one of the first time computers had been beating humans in video and games for a while, but I think the standard was that it takes a human mind to play chess. It was a big thing that people like, that a computer could never be so complex that it could do all of the computations to, be clever enough to do a chess tournament. And in 1996, on February 10th, we saw Gary Kasparov lose to Deep Blue. I would have been 3 years old.
Oh, check it out. He eventually won.
Oh, cool. This is what happened.
It was just a roadblock.
Yeah. He came back and did beat it. But I mean, I'm curious when we're going to get to the one where, when it'll come up, but when Watson beat people at Jeopardy, that was one that I thought was just absolutely out of this world, because Jeopardy has like puns and there's nuances to it. Chess is just math. At the end of the day, everything is just math, but the nuances of language, I always found that would be really interesting.
Yeah. What's Watson been up to lately? I haven't really.
I think Watson, so I know a couple people at IBM, and I think Watson's been doing a lot of stuff in the medical field. They're using it, I think, there's an API that you can access it with, but for a while they were planning on using it as a diagnostic tool to be able to look up symptoms that doctors, there's so many diseases and so much stuff going on. They were going to try to use it as a diagnostic tool, but I don't know. I haven't really heard much about it in the news lately.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
Jono in the chat. Going back to what Chris said earlier about missing editing files directly on the server. I don't know. There's something thrilling about editing a file live on the server, and if you miss a semicolon, it's like going to crash everything. Just good old days. Back in my day.
Back in my day, exactly. Little bit of Valentine's Day love for us here. February 14th, 1946, the ENIAC computer was unveiled. I remember having my teachers in school tell me about this, but the ENIAC was and is considered the first fully electronic computer, and it could compute up to 5,000 operations a second. And this is back when these computers, were the size of buildings. So the ENIAC, the birthplace of modern electrocomputing, came online, or was unveiled. This is what it says. February 4th, 1946. 1,500 square feet of space.
Square feet. 30 tons.
That's bigger than most people's apartments. So imagine just putting a computer in your apartment, your entire apartment being a computer. That was what it would have been.
I like the snarky comment at the end.
However, it couldn't get YouTube. It would be another what? I can't do math, but it would be another 23 years before the internet was even thought about, because I believe the DARPA project happened in late 60s, early 70s, like 69, 70, I think. Maybe later, I could be wrong. I think that's when they started thinking about it. I don't know if they actually implemented it then. Okay, so another Valentine's Day one, February 14th, 1924, the Computing Tabulation Recording Corporation is renamed International Business Machines, or IBM. So IBM became a thing. The actual company was formed February 14th, 1924. And it's still a titan in the industry to this day.
To this day. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what they were doing? Because computers...
What have they been doing?
1946.
So it says computing tab... I mean, IBM was they're the main... So I don't know what they were doing in 1924. But I mean, you have to remember the IBM was the one that came out with mainframes and all the tech that came out before Unix even came out. We're talking I'm thinking of the movie Hidden Figures when they send John Glenn in orbit, and it's Dorothy Vaughan working on the IBM, and she that was the early 60s, and they were doing, the IBM was programmed in Fortran. That was the new thing, was the Fortran programming language. Punch cards, which I have never got to deal with. Has anyone in our chat ever legitimately punched a punch card and ran code? whether it was for a class or whether it was for production. Because if anybody's done it for production, I'm impressed by you, because that sounds amazing. Like the idea of everything being in paper cards, it just is awesome. Huh.
They were actually founded in 1911.
Okay, what were they doing?
Punch cards.
Well, fantastic. Look at them being great. I guess maybe for like clocking in and clocking out of factories and stuff, because this would have been like industrial, like modern industrial revolution in America at that time. So that does make sense. I mean, when you think about it, somebody had to make that system. And then the last one we have, February 15th, 2005, YouTube was launched. So the platform that we're on right now, speaking to you, is 16 years old, and it was a year later that the program was bought by Google. So for a whole year, YouTube was its own independent program. It was not founded by Google. It was purchased by Google in 2006.
I thought they were independent way longer.
2006 is when they bought it, I think.
Wow.
I have a really funny way of remembering this. There's these old like internet like animations that used to sing about like it was a year in review kind of thing, and they're really catchy and they've stuck in my head since I was a kid, and that's how I remember they were bought in 2006. But
I remember.
wow.
Yeah, so this is the old YouTube interface. Look at this. They didn't even like use a ping.
I'm loving this 4:3 aspect ratio is what I'm loving.
Yeah, right. Because most screens were probably around this at the time.
They were still tubes. Like at this time, like I had a tube TV or a tube monitor up until I was in high school, which would have been 2007, 2008. Yeah. So the tube TV, so 4:3 aspect ratio.
I remember there was a reason they got bought so quickly. I think there was a competitor that bought a video platform of their own, and I feel like Google went to match. I don't remember exactly what it was.
You know, I don't know, because at that point in time, Google wasn't the behemoth that it is now. Like, is YouTube like Google's second product? I mean, outside of like images and maps and stuff, like this was the first time they started going to, in my mind, because what I remember, outside products, like where it was, you know, not just on the Google, what was not just on the Google webpage. 1.65 billion in 2006.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for them.
They were still a behemoth.
But I mean, Google founded in like 98, right? So they were a behemoth in 7 years. That's
ad money.
You're right. Just remember, okay, so also anyone in our chat, does anyone remember not using Google like for search engine? Because I used to use Ask Jeeves. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. There was
I thought it was called a library.
There was that too, though. This what do they call it? The low,
Dewey Decimal,
like high density low, or yeah. There's a really funny joke for that, but I can't remember it, and I'm not going to butcher it. I do remember the library, but I also remember Ask Jeeves, Yahoo. I never really used AOL or MSN. I to this day don't use Bing. So anyway, awesome. Well, that's all we have.
Vista.
What
Forgot about that.
What?
Alta Vista?
I don't know what that is. Oh, I have no idea. What is Alta Vista? I don't know what that is.
Let's see if it is. Are they bought by Yahoo? Because it shows Yahoo now.
Maybe.
Let's look at this. Check out this thing.
Oh my god, that's so ugly.
Like Yellow Pages.
Oh my gosh, that makes sense. So Ask Jeeves, I think it's they changed the name to ask.com. Is it still around? It is. Ask.com is still around.
Is the butler still around?
No, like when they removed the Jeeves part, because the Jeeves was the butler, they removed Jeeves and then it just became ask.com. And like honestly, I wonder if we're the first like someone sitting there counting page views is like, someone just viewed us. Because it's been so long. I haven't thought about this since I was a kid. So, oh my goodness.
Let's go find some stuff about ask.com. All right. So, ranking in the world, according to Alexa SiteRank, is 290.
What?
I did not expect that.
I did not expect that at all. What?
What?
I'm lost. I'm lost.
Top
Also,
keywords: Ask Jeeves, and mattress sizes. Cool.
that's sometimes I feel that in like search traffic just brings up more questions than it answers. So
Interesting. I
oh
wonder
my
if
goodness.
there's like a country that really likes Ask.
I don't know. We'll have to look that up later.
Yeah,
For sure.
interesting.
We had a comment who said someone their mom was a working engineer on Fortran for IBM and still remembers all the huge books about Fortran and C at home. That's awesome. I don't know. I have a weird nostalgia for old technology. It's a weird obsession with mine. I have an IBM version 1 book manual on my bookshelf back here that I love. But anyway, we've wandered down nostalgia lane for too long. We have to move on to the next session.
This is exactly what this section was supposed to be.
Yes,
you don't say back in my day without rambling.
You're right. You don't. Nobody. I don't think that has never been followed by anybody who doesn't lose their breath by talking. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so open discussion. This is just things that our next section. We call it open discussion. We'll eventually come up with a better name for it. It's just things that Chris and I are dealing with or stuff we want to talk about. And the first one that I want to talk about is Clubhouse, because this is really starting to peeve me.
Oh, wrong one.
.com, I think, right?
Yeah, Clubhouse.io is a really cool project management tool that I recently learned about because of the other Clubhouse.
Oh, I was like, is this what we're supposed to be talking about? Because I thought we were talking about the other one.
Yeah, no, it's like actually a really cool tool to.
Okay, I've heard of this. This is kind of like a Jira competitor, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And it has a decent CSS. So
I actually really like it. Yeah. I've heard of it. I don't know where I've heard of it before, but I've heard of this.
I've seen a couple companies pick it up and use it recently.
Nice.
Jono in the chat, kids these days never had to make a site look good in IE4.
And it shows. IE4. I think the last time I saw IE4, I love playing old DOS games. So I have like a VM of Windows 98, and every now and then, just for fun, I will connect it to the internet and I will try to browse today's internet on IE4. And that could be a stream in and of itself because it's hilarious. But anyways, Clubhouse. Go ahead, Chris. This one confuses me.
Is anyone in the chat using Clubhouse? I wish I could show what the interface looks like. Clubhouse iOS. It's only on iPhone right now, and it's kind of all the rage as far as apps goes right now. But basically, one screenshot. They're like, we're so cool, we only are going to give out one screenshot.
This is this artificial scarcity thing.
Yeah, so basically what it is I guess the best way to do this is, let me see if I can pull it up on my phone and like show it. So here is Clubhouse. Tell me if this translates.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so this is Clubhouse, and basically each of these is a room where I guess popular people are in there talking about stuff. Like this one it's called Startup School, Building a Founder Network. The people over at Gumroad, Sahil and them, they use it. They said they replaced Zoom with Clubhouse. They're doing like a little experiment, but it's such a weird concept, right? It's like, hey, just come in here and listen to us talk. It's just audio rooms, which, Mason, what's your main feedback on that?
It's Discord. It's Discord without chat. Like all they did is they're like, we're going to take this part, plop it over here, and call it a new product. Which we had an employee or a coworker of ours that was talking, and she was like, yeah, all you do is just take things away from people and they want it. So we took away the chat version from Discord and now we have Clubhouse.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Clubhouse. I think it's like social engineering done really well, as far as you really feel like you're a fly on the wall in a room where it makes it look like, and they are smart people, right? So you're a fly on the wall for your like favorite people that you want to hang out with. Like the next one, the only one that I've been excited to kind of jump into, was just agreed upon yesterday. Elon and Kanye agreed to do a Clubhouse together. So they're just going to chat, and I'm going to go sit in.
So it's live podcasting with no video where people can just sit and listen. Do the people that are sitting and listening get to interact? Do they get to talk, or are they muted?
Yeah, so there's like this little thing down here at the bottom where you can like wave, and they bring you on stage. They call it the stage. Like this top section is the stage of who can talk, and then down here is just audience, and then you can wave. They can bring you on stage. You can talk. AKA radio. I guess it's similar to what we're doing right now, except close your eyes.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Oh my goodness. It looks cool. I'm excited to get to try it. They're going to have to release it on Android because I'm not a team Apple person. Or DigitalOcean's going to have to buy me an iPad so I can do it. I'm down for that. But yeah, it does seem pretty interesting. I like the idea because it's honestly, this reminds me a lot of like eating dinner at a conference, and like you're sitting at a table, like you sit down and then like a whole bunch of like really smart people that could be your idols. Like I've sat at the same table as Guido van Rossum before, the creator of Python, and he and some of the core devs were there and just talked. And they just talked about what's going on in Python. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm not saying a word. I'm just listening and absorbing the information. So I definitely see why this has appeal, and I'm super excited to get to use it. I'm just upset because I just figured out TikTok, and now the audience just moved to another chat, and now I have to figure out another one, and it's not even on my phone, which is just.
I think, yeah, I don't know, can't beat TikTok, but. It's fun that you bring that point up about conference. Like, we do a lot these days of trying to mimic the old in-person conferences in this digital world. And there's just something magical about saying, like, standing in a hallway, a bunch of people are walking by and they're like, hey, you want to go to lunch? And now all of a sudden you're sitting next to the founder of something,
Yeah, it's the biggest thing I miss about conferences is the people. Like the talks I can see, booths I can still virtually work at. I miss the interaction. I miss the inspiration that you get when you're talking with smart people, and then like they inspire you and then you go off and do something, or projects that get started, the kind of things that happen just when you put creative people in a room and let them do what they do best, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's I don't know. This I think is very close to it. Like we get to chat with everybody here, all of you in the chat get to hang out with us. And I love reading all the comments. So thank you everybody for being here. But yeah, I don't know. I miss that stuff. Miss the people.
Definitely. Hopefully soon we'll get it back. Okay. Do we want to talk about Reddit stuff?
How are we on time? We're right at the hour.
We're right at the hour. We can squeak a little bit past because that's the last thing that's on our talk list, and then I just have my joke of the day, haha, and then we're good. So
question in the chat from Andy:
are these episodes uploaded to podcast apps like Google, Apple's Podcast, or Spotify? These episodes of Cloud Chats are on YouTube, and we haven't decided if we want to upload them to a podcast app. It has been discussed. We've thought about it, but we haven't made any decisions. So if that's something that you would want, please put it in the chat. Let us know that you'd like to listen to us on a podcast app. And, maybe, we can take that data back to the people who tell Chris and I what to do, and then they can make the decisions. Because Chris and I are just the mere little pawns that basically the dance monkey dance. So
we're big pawns.
We're big pawns, much big. Yes, it's funny because I can y'all can't see it, but I can see our moderators in the chat below us. I can see their face and they're shaking their head, and like I can see it's making me laugh. So I sometimes tease our moderators that y'all can't see, but we can see while we're doing this. Okay, but it's not quite the same, is it? Yeah, it's not. But once we're back into it, conferences are going to be amazing.
Yeah, that whole let's all go to the hotel bar is such a fun end of the day at a conference.
The amount of oh my goodness, the amount of things that I've heard and learned at a hotel bar at a conference is astronomical.
So I'm a Google developer expert for Google, their like advocacy program, and I got it from being at a hotel bar. All that good networking.
I've spoken at conferences before because of meeting the right people at a hotel bar, and they're like, "Oh, I'm running a conference. You should submit." And then they remember me, and they, so yeah, the networking does happen.
Cool. So let's close out with the last point on our open discussion, which is going to be on our notes. It just says Reddit stuff, and
yeah.
So I'll share my screen. Did anyone else see this Reddit Super Bowl ad that they had, where they basically bought out a 5-second spot and then just showed this for 5 seconds? I actually didn't catch it. Did you catch it, Mason?
I didn't. I'll be honest. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. It's not my thing.
Cool. But I don't know. Just fun sort of advertising. And my big thing here was they're like, big game spots are expensive, so we couldn't buy a full one. But we were inspired to spend our entire budget on 5 seconds of Super Bowl time. And then like a day later, this happened. They raised 250 mil. But I guess that's all we had for Reddit stuff, huh?
It was just kind of funny. We were like, I remember when I was a kid, and I can't find any evidence of this anywhere, but I know I remember this as a kid. So maybe it's a Mandela effect thing where like this happened in an alternate universe and we've moved on from that universe. But I remember sitting in the car with my mom listening to the radio. That's how long ago this was. And I remember them talking about Mahatma Rice did a commercial for the Super Bowl, and it was like a 1-second commercial, and it's just Mahatma Rice, and it went away, and that's all it was. And they talked about, I think that segment cost them $500,000 for like 2 seconds to say their name and have their logo on the screen and be done with it. Now, when I look on the internet, this event did not happen. So I don't know what's going on. I remember it very vividly because I remember it being kind of weird. But who knows?
Maybe it was too early.
Maybe.
Or before all that recording stuff. And honestly, we should have a whole segment on Mandela effect things.
Okay. I thought we were doing cloud chats, not
alternate world cloud chats. No, like another episode. But I just want to talk about that Berenstein Bears one. That one kids me.
Oh, let's not. Okay, you're or the Jiffy. Like,
what's that one?
Like Jiffy apparently is called Jif or something. Like the peanut butter had either one too many F's in it or it doesn't have.
It's one F, right?
I don't remember what was the Jiffy Mandela effect. This is what happens. You get my brain on a.
All right, yeah. Let's save this for a session later, and then.
Oh no, it's not Jiffy. It's Jif.
Yeah.
But I always remember it being Jiffy peanut butter.
I think there's Jiffy Lube.
Anyway, this is okay. We've gone down a rabbit hole. We have to dig ourselves back out of this one. Okay, Chris, get the peanut butter off the screen. We're gonna go back to.
Oh, I was gonna leave it.
No, we're not gonna leave the peanut butter on the screen. Okay, so that's all we have for this week. We're gonna end with my joke of the day. Chris, are you ready for my joke of the day?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, how does a computer get drunk?
How?
It takes screenshots. Great, these are great. I'm watching our moderators like facepalm, and I love it. Like if I can make everybody facepalm with my jokes, it's been a good day. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you again same time next week. Stay safe. If you're in the United States with this polar vortex, it is below freezing in Texas, and that's not a place that Texans like to be. So keep yourself safe from the virus, from the cold, from everything else. Oh, we've got one more question. How do you learn new things? We can, you know what? Let's save these questions and we'll put them in we're going to do an Ask Us Anything segment in one of our shows. So let's go ahead and we'll save these questions and we'll add them to our Ask Us Anything. I think those are great questions. Tune in next week to hear us answer them. Yeah, that's all I got. Chris, you got anything else?
That's it. Thanks for joining us again for Cloud Chats number 2. We'll be doing number 3 next Thursday. So definitely subscribe to the DigitalOcean YouTube channel to watch out for that. Mason and I have some fun tech talks coming up on building apps and in Python and in, what am I doing? Strapi stuff and Laravel stuff. So yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.